I'm bringing you an update on the progress on my layout, the Texas, Colorado, and Western, on Ron's Trains and Things, right now. Hi, I'm Ron of Ron's Trains and Things, and if you'd like to see more videos about model railroading tips, tools, and techniques, then be sure and subscribe down below and hit that little bell icon so you can get notified every time I upload a new episode. It's been almost 6 months since I brought you the video tour of my layout, the Texas, Colorado, and Western. There have been some changes and there's been some progress since then, so I thought it might be a good opportunity to give you a little update video to let you see some of the things that have been happening and some of the things that are going to be happening soon on the layout. Before we do that, I want to remind you about my Down and Dirty Weathering Contest. I'm collaborating with Eric at IMRRO.com and Steven at Midwest Model Railroad to bring you a contest with some great prizes and an opportunity to show off your weathering skills. Last Friday, I brought you a video to tell you all the details and the rules about that contest. If you haven't seen that video, you'll want to be sure and check it out. I'll put a link to that video in a card near the end of this video. Now, come along with me as we take a brief tour and show you a little update of what's been happening on the Texas, Colorado, and Western. The first area I want to show you is my Fort Worth area. Now, this is an area that you see behind the scene in many of my intros and such during my videos. This has been one of the very last areas that I have to lay industrial track and some track work, because I've changed my mind several times on exactly how I want to do the track work in this area. But I think I've made a final decision now, and we're going to go with it. The question has always been how I'm going to run the track that's going to feed into my Amtrak station. And what I had originally planned was for this switch right here to run into this track, which would feed into the Amtrak station, and I would model the Amtrak station from the front. I did some videos early on my channel about planning for the scratch build of that Amtrak station. The problem I had, and as I turn the camera in just a moment you'll see, I did not have enough room on this track to be able to pull my full Amtrak train in and really get it in the clear there. And so I was never really sure just how that was going to work. And what I've decided to do is make this switch an industrial switch. It's going to feed an industry that I'll show you in just a moment. And I've decided to add a curved turnout to the main line right here. You can see the curved turnout, and that's going to feed into this track here, which is actually going to be the line serving my Amtrak station. And as I pan the camera on around here to the right, you can see this was actually the mock-up that I built of my Amtrak station turned around backwards. I'm not going to be using that at all. This will be the track for my Amtrak station. My passenger platform will be modeled right along here. I'm going to build this foam back up a little bit and square this off. So I won't actually be modeling the passenger station, the Amtrak station itself at all, just the platform. And that's going to give me plenty of room as I extend this track on out to about here. It'll give me plenty of room to park my entire Amtrak train there, have it in the clear while it loads and unloads passengers, and then the main line can be in the clear. This track that originally was going to feed the Amtrak station now is going to feed a different industry. Here I'm going to put Plywood Company of Fort Worth, which is a real company, real business that is rail served, and that company will receive shipments of lumber that they'll use for making plywood, and then of course we'll ship out plywood. So this area, I didn't want to show you so much what I've done, but what I have finally decided to do, and I'm going to be working on this and probably show you some of that in some videos as we go forward, how I actually lay this track and get this area ready, and then model this area. I'll have some streets that'll run through here. This series of buildings, there'll probably be a couple of more. There'll be a street that'll run along here and across the tracks here as well. And it's going to be a nice scene, and I think I really like how I've decided to do that. Moving on around to the North Yard area, this area right in here, I have really struggled for a long time to figure out exactly what to do with that. And doing a little more research, I found that in the year that I modeled, there was a business and industry that actually sat behind Adm Grain. I'm going to move it out and down just a little bit so that I can model it. And that industry is actually Victory Blue. It is a division of Victory Fuels that makes diesel exhaust fluid. And so I'm going to be modeling a truncated version of its structure here. The interesting thing about the structure that they use, Victory Blue actually occupies a building that once had been a feed processing plant that was connected to the grain elevator. And so that building actually is a long industrial building that has its own small grain elevator in the end. And Victory Blue is actually using the trackage that goes right through the loading shed for the grain elevator as a way to get to some of their facilities with the cars that serve that business. So I'm going to be modeling all of that in this truncated structure here. There will actually be two tracks. You see I have them just laid out here. One will be the track that will run through the loading shed from the old elevator part of the building, and it runs to a number of loading doors where box cars will be loaded, filled with pallets of jugs of diesel exhaust fluid to be shipped out. The other track will actually be a track that will have unloading facilities for tank cars, because one of the items that's required for the making of diesel exhaust fluid is a processed water, and so they receive that in through tank cars. There's also urea, which is used in the making of diesel exhaust fluid, and that will be received in covered hoppers, pelleted urea, and I believe that's actually unloaded into the old grain facility. I'm not sure. I need to do a little more research there, but anyway, that'll make an interesting industry there. This structure down here that you have seen before is one that I had decided was going to be my version of the Plywood Company of Fort Worth, which, as I told you just a moment ago, I've actually moved over to the downtown area, and I'm going to build a structure that'll be more appropriate for that. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this structure. Honestly, I've never been happy with that structure. It's a hydrocal structure. It has cracked several times. I just don't like the way it sits and the way it looks on my layout. And I'm seriously considering replacing it entirely with a different structure. But I haven't figured out for sure what that's going to be. So whenever I do figure that out, I'm sure you'll be seeing me build that project here on the channel. But this is the plans and what's happening in North Yard right now. I've shown you my progress. I'll also show you my lack of progress. This, of course, is Saginaw, Texas. And this was part of the object of that foam scenery base video that I made several weeks ago. And I showed you how to use Great Stuff spray foam to fill in gaps, to glue down foam, and those sorts of things. I've come in and just rough cut out the extra foam. I haven't sanded down or got these contoured at all. And as you can see, all of the foam that I cut is still just laying here. I haven't even gotten that cleaned up yet. I still need to do a lot of work to kind of do a little more detailing on the Adm Grain Elevator in the background. It's not a rail-served industry, but it's a very important placeholder here. If you've ever been through Saginaw, Texas, you know they have some massive grain elevators. This is one of the largest ones there, and just felt like it was absolutely necessary that I have at least one of those elevators on my layout. So even though it's not served by rail on my layout, it'll make a good placeholder there. Good sense of where you are here in Saginaw, but still have a lot to do with windows to put in the conveyor houses. I've got a decal, a Union Equity decal that I have to make and install here, and just lots of other piping and details to be done here. So haven't made a lot of progress in this area, but wanted to show it to you anyway, as I've begun to work at cutting out and shaping some of this foam along what will be Main Street, Saginaw. Here I wanted to give you a little look at Wichita Falls. You've seen some of these projects in the works here on Ron's Trains and Things. Over here to the left, you see the depot, which serves as a headquarters for the Wichita, Tillman, and Jackson, sitting alongside Katy Yard, which is the interchange between BNSF and the Wichita, Tillman, and Jackson. And then, of course, here, as I'm beginning the process of building a skyline in the backdrop here for Wichita Falls, the Holt Hotel project, which you have been watching me build, still not quite complete. You can still look forward to that last video on it coming up here soon. But you see it sitting in place, in the place that it is going to hold. And then this building here is kind of a stand-in. In the prototype, Wichita Falls yard, there is a structure that is similar in makeup to this, that sits just off the yard, that used to be rail served. It is no longer. And this is actually a portion of Walter's trackside transfer, which I'd had on my very first layout, and I since, as you can see, have actually cut it in half to use as a couple of structures. The other half is serving, at least temporarily, on the lower level along North Yard as a warehouse for evergreen feeds. This I had up here for another industry, but I set it in here just to kind of get a sense of it. I think this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy another trackside transfer structure. I'm going to build this portion of it, leave the office off, and then all of these doors I will actually cut out and brick up. And that'll make a really good stand-in for the structure that should be here. And I think it's going to look really good. This is just kind of a temporary stand-in at the moment. And then, not that I've done anything new, but I'll pan over here to the left just so you can see a little more Wichita Falls. There's Dorchester Grain, and of course, the yard itself. So that's what's been happening so far in Wichita Falls. This area is actually giving you a little sneak preview. I've done just a little bit of scenery in this area. This is the first scenery that I've done beyond doing the rock work here in the summit area. I did this scenery in just this little spot in order to stage some photographs for an upcoming article that I have written and that is going to be published. I don't want to tell you too much about that yet, but I will tell you a lot more about it in just a few weeks as that's coming out, and let you know about that. But you see, I just came into this area, did a little bit of static grass, of course the ground cover, static grass, planted a few trees, a little bit of shrubbery and some grass tufts, and you kind of begin to get a sense for what the summit area is going to look like. Obviously, there's still going to be a lot more trees up in this upper area over here. I've still got some more work to do, tucking some greenery and some trees into the rock area to help also blend some of those rock molds together. But I was really pleased with how this bit of scenery came out, especially like this little area around this retaining wall. I scratch built this retaining wall just for this area some months ago, and really pleased with how I think this is going to turn out, how it's beginning to turn out with this first little bit of scenery here. As one last little bit of video, this is definitely not progress. I have one question. Do you have a cat? Do you want a cat? I have one I'll send to you today. My cat got into the room where my staging yards are, and you can see here what the result of that was. It literally is a catastrophe, and I would very much like to give a cat away today. And so I have talked and researched and searched for years as to great ideas to keep a cat off a layout, and obviously I have failed to find one. So if you have a great answer to that question, how do you keep a cat off of your layout, please put it in the comments below. I and many others would love to hear your great suggestions. Be sure and comment down below. Yes, the cat that caused that catastrophe was the same cat that photobombed my video about making a work cradle last week. So again, and very seriously, if you have any great suggestions or solutions about how to keep cats and other pets off of your layout, please share them with us in the comment section down below. Before I close today, I want to mention another great YouTube channel. A few weeks ago, Ron's Trains and Things was reviewed by Chris at Legion of Weirdos. Legion of Weirdos is a fun channel that I really enjoy. Chris shares with us all kinds of strange and interesting trivia, great list videos, as well as channel reviews and how-tos of unusual things. It's a very entertaining and interesting channel, and you should really check it out. I'm going to post a link to the video that Chris did reviewing my channel in a card right up above here. I hope you'll go check out that video. And while you're there, check out some of Chris's other great videos at Legion of Weirdos. Also in a card in the corner, I'm going to post a link to the Down and Dirty Weathering Contest video. That spells out all the rules and details that you need to know. If you haven't seen that video, please check it out, and I hope that you'll join us in that contest. There are some great prizes, and I know it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you've enjoyed this update video of my layout. If so, please give it a thumbs up down below. And I hope you'll take a moment to check out the description down below. There you'll find a link to the Facebook page that I've used to chronicle the building of my layout from the very beginning. You can also see a link to my Patreon page, where you can see the rewards and incentives that I offer to those who would like to support Ron's Trains and Things. The support of my patrons helps me to be able to keep my equipment up to date, keep improving my video production quality, and keep great model railroad content coming on this channel. So please take a moment to check out that Patreon page, and I really appreciate your support. I also want to thank those of you who watch and comment and engage with my videos on a regular basis. Your interest, your comments are what make keeping this channel alive worth it to me, so thank you. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure and share it on your social media, on model railroad groups, on Facebook and other social media, as well as model railroad forums that you might participate in. That way others can enjoy this and other videos on this channel as well. Well, that's all I have for today, but be sure and join me next Tuesday as I'll be bringing you another great model railroading segment, and I look forward to seeing you then. Lizzie?